Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Jonathan Nicholson with Wave, and we're very excited about today's session. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to take a deep dive into eero's business Wi-Fi solutions for MSPs and VARs, one of the most powerful networking solutions available today. And whether you're managing Wi-Fi for a single office or dozens of locations, we think that you're going to walk away from today's webinar with a clear picture of how eero can transform the way that businesses stay connected. There are almost 300 million small to medium-sized businesses in the US that have to choose between consumer-grade networking solutions that lack necessary tools and enterprise-grade solutions that are very complicated and expensive. And eero's business Wi-Fi was created specifically to bridge that gap there. And today's session is the first in a three-part series, so please make sure to register for the upcoming presentation so that you don't miss out. And before we jump in, we have a few items to cover. One of them is that this session is being recorded, and we'll send the replay link to all registered attendees, and also we'll be posting the recording on our social media pages. So please make sure to follow us and subscribe. Also, we've reserved time at the end of the Q&A, at the end of this presentation for Q&A, so please drop all your questions into the Q&A chat window, and we'll get to as many as we can. We have both Alap Maudi and Edgar Crespi from eero's technical team that will be joining us today also to answer any questions that you may have. So, all right, let's dive in. Please join me in welcoming Rob Mustard from eero. Rob, please take it away.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time to join us. As Jonathan pointed out, my name is Rob Mustard. I joined eero to head up the commercial sales organization. I'm hoping that most of you are familiar with the name eero, and if you are, that's a great thing. It's an American company. It's been in existence for more than 10 years, and actually is now part of the Amazon organization. Amazon purchased eero back in 2019, and eero is known, or you may know it, as a consumer Wi-Fi or residential Wi-Fi company. And you would be correct in knowing it for that. And actually, it's very, very successful in that space. Probably the number one mesh Wi-Fi system in the United States. And as you can see there, it says millions of eeros deployed. Mm-hmm. Actually, that number is somewhat modest. It is multiple tens of millions of eeros deployed. And the guiding light for the company, the North Star, and you'll hear me say this more than once, has always been about ease of use. Right from the very beginning, eero's philosophy is you shouldn't need to understand what an IP address is, as a consumer, to be able to deploy your Wi-Fi at home. So everything that we do is aimed at ease of use. And obviously, as we move up the stack and things just by definition get more complicated, we want to maintain as much as possible that ease of use so that the experience that the end customer gets, but ultimately the partners that we sell through, have that their experience is also simple and straightforward. Okay, let's move on a little bit. So you know eero. What you may not know is that probably somewhere in the region of 60%, 50 to 60% of the equipment that is sold is actually sold not directly off the Amazon website or through Best Buy, but actually through somewhere in the region of 175 to 200 ISPs who we work with on a global basis. And along the way, so those ISPs, I should say, are typically delivering broadband services, and they offer eero as a cost option for their customers if they want improved Wi-Fi in their premises. Along the way, in excess of 100,000 small businesses have deployed eero. Many of them buying from the ISP partner that I've mentioned here. Others have simply gone and bought it from some online place that sells eero products. So that's great. We have a verification of the fact that people love the product. But what we've made the decision to do over the last year or so is to move up the stack. And as Jonathan pointed out, we believe we have a product which can be very compelling for mid-market, small mid-market businesses, and I'll talk to that. And actually, as you'll see, as we continue to move up the stack, it won't just stay in that mid-market space. We do plan to try and achieve more than that. You can see some of the organizations there that we're currently selling to, and I'll talk to some more of that as we go through this. But from a capabilities standpoint, you may think, well, you have a consumer product. Um, and some of you will probably say that we're probably familiar with eero and use eero at home. You'll say, but only got two SSIDs. Yeah, it is very simple to set up, very reliable, etc. But it's not really suitable for an enterprise. Well, actually, those products that you have, if you use them at home, you may not know it because you can't see it, but those products can actually support multiple SSIDs, and they can support VLANs, and they can support 802.1x, and all the usual feature sets that you would expect to see from products that you're probably familiar and used to selling, the Arubas of this world, the Ruckuses of this world, et cetera, et cetera. So all those capabilities exist in the eero product line as well, and they actually exist in the products that you have at home. It's just that the management tool that you use to access those products, if you download the free app, it's not going to give you the visibility of those capabilities. But once you start using our cloud management tool, Insight, suddenly a whole new world opens up. And I'll talk more to that as we go through. So I thought I'd get straight into it, and because you may think, well, what are the products? Because that's ultimately what you're going to be going out and talking to customers about. So all of the things that you can see on this screen, and I'll talk to them individually, these products are available today. They're shipping today. We have customers running their business infrastructure on these products today. So starting on the left, we have a 10-port PoE switch gateway. So it acts as a router. It can directly connect to the internet. It has security capabilities built into it as well. It's got 8 PoE plus ports, 2.5 gig, and then a couple of 10 gig ports, which aren't PoE. So great product to support. If you've got a small distributed office, you need to support a number of access points. Great to plop that device in. It's it's a $400 device, and a lot of them out there. And it's again available shipping today. We have our ceiling-mounted PoE 7 access point. So that's a tri-band. So it includes 6 gigahertz tri-band PoE-powered access point. We also have a tri-band PoE 6 access point as well. Then we have an outdoor PoE 7 access point. We have a device called eero Signal. An eero Signal is designed to provide cellular backup for an eero network. So if you're familiar with vendors like Cradlepoint or Sierra Wireless, Digi, etc., it is similar to that with a caveat. It's designed specifically, at least at this point, to specifically back up an eero network. It connects the USB-C to any eero device, and all eero devices have USB-C ports on them, and you would physically connect it. The reason we did that, by the way, is we figured that you want your cellular device to be as close to a window somewhere where it can get a signal, and that isn't always necessarily going to be in your wiring rack in the basement of the building. So if you want to put it next to one of the access points that's near a window, you just plug it into that access point, and you're off to the races. So we have 4G versions of eero Signal and 5G versions of eero Signal. You can bring your own data plan, but we also offer a multi-MNO SIM built into the product, and we provide data plans for that. And it is a multi MNO SIM, so it supports T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, and will dynamically switch between them based on the best signal that's available. Okay, and then last of all, essentially the crown jewels is Insight, which is the cloud management system. Now, you may think, well, if eero is now just moving into this business space, this is a new product. This is actually not a new product. Insight has been in existence for probably 7 or 8 years, and it is the platform that our ISP partners use to manage the fleets of devices that they have deployed. And some of our partners, by the way, are supporting multiple millions of eero access points through Insight. So it is a very mature platform. Obviously, business deployment is different from managing residential or MDU type deployments. But ultimately, when it gets down to the details in the products, it's the same. And everything that we do is API driven. And there's a lot of work currently going on, and you'll see it. And if we do a demo, which we're not planning on doing here, but if you want to have a demo of what Insight can do, we can show you all the features and functions that we have. But even today, this is the perfect platform for managing a large distributed deployment of eero equipment in a business environment. I'm going to talk to, if you see the line across the bottom, I'm going to talk to our billing options. I mean, again, like our peers in this space, we provide hardware which is very compellingly priced. I'll talk to that. And then we provide business subscriptions. But we have some pretty compelling options for you in terms of the way that we make our subscription options available to you. And by the way, this as I said, before I move on, this is the product line that we have today. There are a number of products that we're going to be releasing over the course of the coming months, and certainly in the second half of the year. If you're interested in understanding what our roadmap is, we'd be very happy to go through it with you. Very happy to get into a deep dive on some of the technology and talk about some of the great stuff that's coming. To do that, we need to have a mutual NDA in place. So please contact Wave after this event if you're interested. We can get that NDA executed very quickly, and then we get a one-on-one session and get into the weeds with you. Okay, so, what is it that we provide that is, from a commercial standpoint, would make it interesting and compelling for you to sell eero's products? If we look at the first point on the left, nobody wants to lead with just saying we're cheaper than everybody else. There's always going to be somebody somewhere who can sell something cheaper than you can. And I'm not going to tell you that we're the cheapest products in the world. In fact, what's interesting is in that ISP world, eero is actually the expensive option. There are a number of players that provide consumer, residential solutions for ISPs. And what is interesting is more and more ISPs keep coming to eero and asking to supply our product. And essentially that comes down to the ease of use and the reliability of the product, which leads to huge reductions, and I'm talking orders of magnitude, in support calls that their operations desks have to deal with. So whilst the cost of the equipment maybe is a little bit more, the operational cost plummets, and that makes it very worthwhile. So if we look at just the cost of our products generally, one of the things and I'm talking about the hardware now, one of the things that we have which works hugely in our favor is that because eero is so successful on the consumer side, we're very good at managing the cost of the product. Enterprise vendors tend to be a little bit more relaxed. The prices of the products tend to be much higher. There's more fat in the opportunity. They don't spend as much time cost optimizing their products. Eero will go to great trouble. We know that we have to build products to a price point. We still use the enterprise grade, all the enterprise grade components, but we are very careful about building our product to a price point which makes it very compelling, while still maintaining that reliability level that I talked about. So we're able to position our products at a very competitively, price level, probably certainly less than a half, even a third of the price of comparable hardware than those other vendors that I mentioned. We have on top of that then this very compelling, I think, subscription option, which I'm going to talk to a little bit more on the next slide. And you're going to find that the total cost of ownership over a 3/5 year period, which are the periods that people typically like to look at, we're going to be less than half the cost of other vendors. Now, the next thing that we do is everything that we do is built on simplicity and ease of use. I mentioned that as being a North Star, and that's absolutely true. It relates to our hardware lines. You're not going to find eero coming out with 10 different access points that all of which do the same thing, a very low end, a quite low end, a medium, a somewhat high end, a very high end. We're not going to be doing that. We leverage the fact that we can build things to a compelling price point. We make what we believe is as good as, if not better, from a best in class to what the competitors provide, and we position it at a very compelling price point. So our high-end product and our mid-range product and our low-end product, for example, if you look at our current Wi-Fi 7 tri-band indoor product, is one product. And for most people, it still hits the sweet spot, and from a cost standpoint, it works for them. From a software standpoint, you'll find that we're not going to provide you with lots of different options there either. There's one subscription package, and you get everything in that subscription package. So it's very easy. We're not going to try and sell you one thing and then upsell you to something else. You'll get everything in that single subscription. And then again, the way that you purchase your subscriptions, again, I'm going to talk about that on the next slide. And then lastly on this from a business model standpoint, we will provide world-class support. So whilst everything from a cost standpoint is compelling, if not the cheapest, but very compelling, you'll find that we will provide a world-class support. We already are obligated to provide world-class support to the ISPs, and that number, it's more, as I said, it's more like 175 plus ISPs that we work today. Many of them are very demanding, as you would probably expect. So we have a US-based support center up in Boise. We have support around the world, but it's headquartered through our Boise office. And the sort of things that we'll provide is lifetime replacement on equipment, which is very important. If you're an MSP and you're using equipment and perhaps reusing it over a period of time, and by the way, we're still supporting products in the field today that we shipped more than 10 years ago. Now, maybe customers don't want products that were delivered more than 10 years ago, but if they are, and you're an MSP, you can be reusing equipment in your customers. We'll continue to support them. We'll continue to provide you with lifetime replacement services as long as the products are under subscription. Now, what about those subscriptions? How does it work? Well, the traditional model that everyone's probably familiar with is the prepay 1, 3, 5, maybe even 7-year subscription plans. And if you or your customer wants that, we're more than happy to work that way and take the money and be paid up front. Okay, so that's great if that's what you want to do. But we have an alternative way of billing, and actually it's our preferred, and it's the way that we work with our ISP partners. And that is that you pay for your subscriptions essentially on an OpEx model, and you would be invoiced monthly. So we would invoice Wave monthly, they would invoice you monthly, on the assumption, especially if you're a managed service provider, but this would be true for VARs as well if you wanted to, on the assumption that you're billing your customer. If you're providing a managed service, you may sell the hardware to the customer. You may have them pay for that, but then you may charge them a monthly fee, or you just may charge them a flat monthly fee anyway. Well, the great thing about having an OpEx model like this is, whilst we'll sell you the hardware for a very, very compelling price, we also don't require you to then pay for 1, 3, 5, 7 years of subscription up front. We will just invoice on a monthly basis for whatever is being used. And very importantly, you only pay for the eeros that are actually active. And Insight is the teller of all truths in terms of access points that were or switches that were active and online. So if you have eero devices which are offline, then you're not going to be billed for them. So if a customer buys 100 radios and puts some of them in the warehouse, or you put some in the warehouse, you don't get an invoice month to month. So what does that mean? First of all, your subscriptions never run out because there is no defined subscription period. So you never have to worry about monitoring your subscriptions. If the device is online, there will be an invoice for that device for that month, which will be sent to you monthly in arrears. You never have to worry about co-termination complexities. I mean, that's one of the things, and I've been selling subscriptions related to hardware for the last, 10, 15 years. And co-termination complexities are a nightmare. They're a nightmare for the vendor, for the partner, and for the end customer, where you've deployed devices over different periods of time. They've all got similar length subscriptions or maybe different length subscriptions, and they're all going to start running out at different periods of time. You don't have to worry about that because there is no co-termination. There's no subscription period for any given device. And then, lastly, and partners worry about this, MSPs worry about this, end customers worry about this. They worry about the fact that they're wasting their subscription. They purchased the product, we shipped it out, the clock starts ticking. Maybe you get a small grace period, but even then, the clock starts ticking, and they're worried that they've spent money on a subscription that they're not getting value from because the product isn't deployed. Maybe they had to shut a branch down for a period of time, and those products are, again, just sitting there and the subscription is being wasted. So you don't have those problems with eero. Okay, so whatever a customer wants, if they want a CapEx model, they want to pay up front, we're very happy to do that. If they want a consumption-based model, we're very happy to do that. And just kind of looking under the hood a little bit, we're also looking at a model where we'll do the consumption model, but for people that want to prepay. So actually, if you do want to pay up front, you want to use CapEx, but you like this only pay for what you use model, we're hoping to bring something like that to market quite quickly as well. Okay, so let's talk about eero Insight. And again, Insight has always been created with a view to being, ease of use is our North Star. So all of our equipment needs to be easy to use, and easy to deploy, easy to manage. Okay, and you're not really going to understand what that means until you get a demo. So again, if you're interested in understanding Insight, let's arrange and get a demonstration done for you. But what is important is that we provide full visibility across the stack. So actually start in the middle, from a client standpoint, how many clients are on the network? When did they join? When did they leave? What was their experience when they were on the network? What SSID were they connected to, et cetera, et cetera. So, so right at the very edge. And then from a connectivity standpoint, what is the Wi-Fi looking like? What channels are being used? What's the level of interference? How does it change across the infrastructure that we've got? Then we look at the infrastructure itself, the physical APs. What's the CPU load? What's the memory usage? Even what's the heat of the devices? Just the general health of the physical infrastructure itself. And then you got all your security configuration information, and then you can actually create your own knobs and tools. There are literally hundreds of signals available to you, and you can use Insight to create these different thresholds and different combinations of thresholds to create whatever alerts that you need. Okay, all of this information is available and streams in real time from every eero device. Now, obviously, we take that into Insight, and it's this finished tool, which is great and is being enhanced all the time. But it's available. But just for a bit of fun, these are the sort of things that some of our engineers create. So, and using AWS, you can use other tools, but we've been using AWS Kinesis here, managed Prometheus and Grafana. I wish I knew what those things were. I have no idea, but our engineers love them. So they just take the feeds from our products, and you can create, very sexy looking dashboards. These are things that our engineers just knocked up in very short periods of time. But essentially, and I'm just throwing it out there, this could be a value-added service that you provide to your customer. The dashboards and the things that you get in Insight are fantastic, but they can be dry. Like everybody's management systems can look very dry. Using these sort of tools that are available through AWS, you can create very sexy looking tools and literally create anything that you want for your customer. Maybe you can create some canned products that you can bring to every customer. So just an idea of the sort of things that you can do with this product line. So without going, too detailed into the things that are coming, I just wanted to give you some idea about where we go, where we're going in partnership with the other organizations under the Amazon umbrella. As I mentioned, eero was acquired by Amazon in 2019. We operate, as all the Amazon companies do, as an independent business unit, effectively underneath the Amazon umbrella. So eero operates today very much as it did, before it was acquired, as a standalone entity, executing its business arrangements, has its own roadmap, development cycles, et cetera, et cetera. But of course, we work hand in hand with, our partners, AWS on one side. So that they do what's in the cloud, we do what's at the edge. If you're familiar with Leo, which is the formerly Kuiper, which is our satellite space organization, that's the Starlink alternative, if you will. They do the space bit. So I'm saying eero and AWS, but eero and AWS plus Leo gives you an idea of how we're bringing the different pieces together and creating solutions for customers. So there's a lot of great things that we will bring at the edge, but there are a number of services that are available in the cloud through our brothers at AWS, and you can expect in the future that we'll start leveraging a number of those capabilities. In fact, we already leverage a number of things. For example, we have a capability called site-to-site VPN. So if a customer uses AWS and they have their own VPC, typically when you set up a remote branch, you want to set up a VPN connection to that location. So, and you can do that. It's a process. It's not necessarily that simple and straightforward, and there are some specific product requirements that you have to have. But all of that capability is just directly built into eero products. And you can go into Insight, you can put your VPC information in, and essentially automatically site-to-site VPNs will be set up for all of your locations where you have eero deployed. So that's just an example of how we work with AWS and integrate functions. And there are other things along those lines that you'll see us do in the future. So as I said, whilst we operate independently from these other business units, we all operate under the same umbrella, and there's a lot of cooperation, and you'll see more and more of that as things develop. Now we have a lot of features and functions. This is an eye chart. I am not going to go into the details here. The important thing was to explain that our product supports a whole raft of enterprise capabilities, and this is not all of them, by the way, but this is some that were thrown onto a chart a little while ago. Like anything, we will be driven, and our development will be driven by the business case. So if we're working with customers and they need things, as a priority, then based on the business opportunity that we have, we will prioritize new features. But the rate at which new capabilities are being added to the product is quite astonishing. I joke to people, I'm here. I am at eero, which is part of Amazon. So I'm kind of like I'm in the startup part of the company inside a $1 billion organization, which is inside a $1 trillion organization. Okay, but it's a very exciting time to be at eero, and it's please, I welcome you to join the party and see the things that we're doing. So what we have, I believe, is perfect for all of our channel partners. Okay, we make really high quality products, always designed, as I said before, with ease of use as our North Star. We have these great financial options for you, still have best in class support, and everything built on AWS. So whether you are an MSP, whether you're a value added reseller, whether you're an ISP, please come and have a conversation with us. And I put technology partners up there as well. What do I mean by a technology partner? Well, let me give you an example. I won't name names, but we do a lot of stuff in the distributed sort of quick serve restaurant world, and there are a number of different point of sale vendors in there. And point of sale vendors always want to deploy equipment that's PCI compliant, and our Wi-Fi solutions can be deployed to be PCI compliant. And we have point of sale vendors who essentially every deployment that they do, they deploy eero equipment. We have one that's deployed somewhere in the region of 4 or 5,000 different locations, eero access points in conjunction with their point of sale. So the sale, just to be clear, the sale is about their point of sale product, and we're an add-on. It's not, they're not leading with eero, they're selling their technology, and then we get included with the sale. So that's what I mean by a technology partner, and we have conversations going on with a number of those. Okay, so where does eero fit today? Understanding what I've shown you in terms of what the products are and what the technical capabilities, where should you position the product today? And there's really a couple of two different types of deployment. So the first, obviously, the table stakes is Insight is the foundational tool that you're going to manage whatever you deploy. And then the first is essentially what we have been doing for some time, and obviously will continue to do, and that's where we manage multiple small networks. So by a small network, we typically mean around 8 or less access points, and that could be residential, what an ISP is doing. It could be multiple access points in somebody's home, or it could be in MDUs where each apartment is essentially a separate living space. Student living, the same, quick serve restaurants, branch networks, small retail chains, maybe health clinics, anything where a handful of radios, a handful of eeros is sufficient. That's the kind of stuff that we do all the time. And we've got, as I mentioned, hundreds of thousands of customers already using us in that mode. And then the second is really when we start to move up the enterprise, the business stack. And that's where you want to support one or more large networks. Okay. So in that kind of deployment, the underlying design rules that you will apply are similar to what you would do with the traditional vendors that you would be used to working with. So all the traditional radio resource management planning needs to be applied. Today, we can support networks up to about 100 access points. So, in warehouses and distribution centers, maybe K-12 environments, small hotels, retail stores, that's fine. By the end of the year and really going, beyond 2026 into 2027 and beyond, we will be supporting hundreds of radios, and scale really won't be a challenge. So at that point, you'll be able to move into those orange colored devices as well. So as Jonathan mentioned at the beginning, today we're probably better positioned in the sort of small medium business, mid market. That's the sweet spot for us. But these conversations with customers take time. They don't make a decision overnight. And if you have customers who you think we maybe if we're not a perfect fit today, but you think we might be a fit, let's have the conversation, and we'll see where it goes and take it from there. Okay, so if you're interested, I'm delighted. So what should happen? What should happen next? Please let Wave know that you're interested. That's the most important thing. We will then send you a mutual NDA, which you can execute. It'll be emailed to you directly from eero. It'll be an Amazon mutual NDA that you can sign and execute. Once you've done that, we can get into a technology and business deep dive. So we can go much deeper than the stuff that I've gone into here, and we can get into the roadmap stuff and tell you about some of the exciting products that we've got coming out in the not too distant future. If you decide that you want to pursue things further, then you'll execute the eero partner agreement, or deployment agreement, as we call it. Again, we'll send you that document, and it's a DocuSign. It's a simple and straightforward process. And at that point, you can claim your eero starter kit. We'll provide you with one of our switches, a sort of indoor radio and outdoor radio, and we'll get you an Insight account, and you can use that for your own self-training and to some demonstration capabilities. And then we'll oh, my spelling there, sorry. Let's get you trained. We'll get you trained, and we'll start selling together. Okay, so this process here can be done very, very quickly based on your interest. But let's get that NDA signed, get the conversation going, get into some of the weeds, so that we can answer any of the other questions that you have. Okay, so I think I'm probably going to finish it there. This is the opportunity for people to ask questions. So I'll kind of hand it back to you, Jonathan. And
thanks, Rob. Excellent presentation, by the way. You touched a lot of really good points, and thank you also to Alap and Edgar. They've been fielding all these questions as they were rolling in through the Q&A chat. We've had some emailed in, we've had some through chat. So we've been saving some questions though for our Q&A section here, because we've had a good amount coming in. So let's just jump right in. You may have covered a few of these already, but let's just go over them real quick. We'll start easy here. Let's see here. Can I grant a business owner read-only access to their network while the MSP retains full configuration rights?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think one of the strengths of Insight is the ability to kind of, we support multi-tenancy. If you're a VAR and you're handing the keys over to the customer, they could hand monitor only, view only rights back to the VAR, but not allow the VAR to make changes. Or it could be exactly the other way around in an MSP world. And by the way, an MSP really can, through a single login, have multiple customers underneath. You don't have to create separate accounts and log in different times to get access to all your different customers. So yeah, we have great flexibility in terms of who has view only rights and who has monitor only rights.
Excellent. Thank you. You actually answered two questions with that answer. So perfect. Let's see here. Can the captive portal collect customer data like emails for marketing, or is it strictly for terms of service acceptance?
Well, crikey, I think today we just capture email addresses. I mean, we can capture whatever we ultimately decide we want to capture. By default, today it's just email addresses, I believe. But if Edgar or Alap are they
Yep,
on? Are they able to
I'm
answer?
here. Yes, I'm here. I can answer it. So, yes, as of today, we have a simple click through I accept captive portal, and then we have more customization option where you can ask name, first name, last name, email address. I think phone number is also something we are working towards. But again, we have we have capability to customize based on your need.
Excellent. Thank you. And let's see here. The questions are getting a little more technical, so let's keep throwing them your way here. Can I set bandwidth limits per SSID to ensure my always staff always has priority? And examples like capping the guest network at like 20 megs.
So
Alap,
depending on,
go ahead.
sorry, Rob, are you taking it?
No, you go. I was going to say, Alap, please. Any of these technical ones, I'm going to defer to you.
Yeah.
No worries. I think as of today, what we have in our solution is on the guest network, you can set the bandwidth limit anything between 10% to 60% of available WAN bandwidth. So let's say if your WAN link is 100 meg, you can say that, hey, my guest network can only use 10% of which is up to total 10 Mbps, or can be using up to all 60 Mbps, or you can keep it completely off and no one cares about it, and everyone, your employee, guest, everyone can use whatever they want. So we have flexible options.
Awesome. Excellent feature there. Thank you. Does the advanced security feature include real-time packet inspection, or is it primarily DNS-based filtering?
Yes, we are doing primarily DNS based filtering. At eero, at Amazon, we are not doing DPIs, not looking into where traffic is going, and at least currently for the solution, we have focused on DNS based security.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Also, how granular are the content filters? Can we block specific categories like social media or streaming only during certain business hours? Which is something I hope they never do to me because I live my life on social media. So
Well, again, a good question. So granularity is in terms of you can define that, hey, I want to block social media, but in that I want to allow Facebook, don't want to block everything. So you can configure allow list, deny list based on category, based on specific FQDNs. Um, that's what we have available. Doing based on the day of time or scheduling, like, hey, I'll only block this between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. That's something we don't have it. And the reason for that is like there hasn't been a huge demand came up for that. But if there are like a huge big use cases for that, we would love to chat and figure out options.
awesome. Thank you. Here's one that came in through the Q&A window also. Does the commercial ISP system support Passpoint for cellular offloading? And they provided examples of Wi-Fi, Helium, etc.
So on our solution, these are some of the internal proof of concept we have running. So if you have a use cases, we would love to chat on how you're integrating with other providers and find the right solutions for you. But again, we are constantly evaluating and working on some of these solutions.
Excellent. Thank you. Here's another good one here. Can I drop ship eero hardware to a client site and configure the entire network remotely before they even plug it in? That's a good question.
Yes.
Yep.
The answer is you can have those setups on a workbench table and then ship them out to locations that you're going to go behind firewalls, behind systems, and as long as you have that configuration ready and it gets an IP address, it will then call home and you should be online. That's exactly how you set it up.
Super convenient. Excellent. Thank you. Let's see here. Is the eero business subscription billed per node, per network, or as a flat monthly fee for the MSP? I know that we reviewed this, but if we can cover this question one more time, please.
Yeah. So we have a per month, per device subscription fee. Okay. And by the way, our model right now, which I can't guarantee will be the same forever, but regardless of the device, with our current portfolio of products, so whether it's a switch, whether it's a signal device for the backup, whether it's an indoor access point, whether it's an outdoor access point, the subscription price is the same and it's per month. And then at the end of each month, through Insight will basically report and say this customer, this network under this subtenancy, whatever it is, there were 16 devices that were online. So therefore, it's 16 times the subscription rate, and that's the invoice for that specific network and that specific customer. When we do the invoicing, by the way, we can invoice by location. So if you have 10 locations, then and you want the cost broken down by location, we can invoice by location, or we can just invoice by the whole account. We're very flexible from that standpoint.
Yeah, very fair. Thank you. Here's a couple more here. It looks like we do have a little more time to review these. Can you explain the security layer between the 4 available SSIDs? Are they physically isolated to ensure guest traffic never touches the business critical VLAN?
Yes, that is correct. So we have multiple SSIDs right now, and by default, we make sure that traffic from these different networks or subnets that's isolated, don't touch each other. On top of that, specifically within guest network, we have inter-user denial as well. That means guest 1 cannot talk to guest 2 as well. And then on other networks, that is permitted. But if your requirement says that, hey, I don't, even on the other SSIDs, I want to block that, that's also a possibility. So again, we have a flexible architecture and flexible setup configuration option that will help you achieve proper isolation within the network and across the network.
Beautiful. Thank you. And one more question here. What is the retention period for historical data in eero business? And can we export these reports for client auditing?
Yep. So typical retention period, and I'm just saying like typical, that means like some dashboards may have a little bit less, but in general, 90 days is our standard retention period. Again, we have all this data available via REST APIs, also via streaming telemetry, and then we generate most useful data via once every 24 hours CSV reports as well, which you can download and keep it in your data lake or in your storage, wherever you want to keep it for a longer term.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And gentlemen, thank you very much for all the info prepared for us today. Rob, excellent presentation. Thank you once again. Alap and Edgar, we're very appreciative for you both stepping in and helping with all the technical questions that we got coming in here. As a follow-up to our presentation today, we'll also send a link to the webinar recording as well as registration links for the 2 other upcoming installments that we have in the near future here. We have end of May, we have eero for today's MSPs, and end of June, we have eero for retail and clinic environments. So we'll be sending that information to everybody who registered for today's presentation here today. And the one takeaway from today is that today's presentation really showed us what eero is capable of, and I'm sure that there's a lot of possible deployments that come to mind to those watching this webinar today or the recording later on. So if anyone watching has a Wi-Fi project coming up where you feel that eero would be the perfect solution to deploy, please shoot us an email. Our main email address is info@waveonline.com. We can provide you with a complete Wi-Fi design and report, as well as pricing and product support, all in-house. And we're basically your one-stop shop for all of your wired, wireless, and even network infrastructure needs. So check out our website. Our website is waveonline.com, and let's just start working together. So, all right, folks, this is all the time we have today. Thank you all for joining us today, and until next time.
Thank you.